Well, it's been a great start to the Championship season with lots of teams in and around the top spots. As we pass the quarterway point of the season, we can start to get a good idea of who's going to be there come the end of the season. But who will it be that makes the step up to the promised land? Well, today I'm going to go through all the teams that are in with a shout at this moment in time, go for their chances of promotion. And let's begin with the current top dogs, the Black Cats. Sunderland, I'm not sure too many people would have expected them to be in first place at this point in the season, but Reggie Labrie has done a fantastic job. His first in England. He hasn't needed time to settle in or for his style of play to come across at all. And despite being chased by 3 parachute payment teams, Sunderland sit 5 points clear at the top. And if you want a more in-depth breakdown of Sunderland and the way they play, I have a full video on that. You can check that in the top right corner if you want. But in summary, Sunderland use their young midfield as a core for their success. Joe Bellingham, Dan Neil and Chris Wigg, 18, 22 and 17, can really control games. But the key is how quickly they transition when winning the ball back, employing either a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1 formation, with Rigg and Bellingham often playing as dual 8s to push forwards, create opportunities. They prioritise wide play with Patrick Roberts and Romain Mundle key to stretching defences and providing assists. And so far, Sirkin has been key at left back, making it fast runs while Joe Bellingham comes to cover him. And so far, Jack Clarke's departure hasn't affected Sunderland at all, and it's actually allowed others in the squad to step up and be really key. And it also seems that the striker issues have been resolved, which was a problem for Sunderland last season. But Isidore has 4 goals in 6 starts now and is taking the Championship by storm, averaging 2.79 shots and 0.7 goals per game. And Mayenda, who started the season up top, also looks really good as a backup option. 4 goal involvements, and it seems like everything is just clicking for Sunderland, but not just in attack, but also in defence. Only 9 goals conceded so far, and that's down to their aggressive 4-4-2 structure that focuses on central blocks and quick pressing. Patterson in net has also been key, which has really helped out. So overall, Sunderland fully deserved of their top spot at this point in the season, and they have a really good chance of going up, and it feels quite similar to Ipswich last season. Not as big underdogs as they were, of course, but this kind of sense that, okay, we might need to start taking them seriously now. And I'll give my final predictions of where I think they're going to finish at the end of the season, but currently they're averaging 2.3 points per game, on track to finish on 107 points, which might just be enough to get them up. Well, people definitely haven't been as impressed with Burnley, even though they do sit second place. It's vintage Parkable. Best defence in the league, only 5 conceded to possession, but it's quite boring. Bournemouth and Fulham fans did warn Burnley fans that this could be what's happening, but look, give credit where it's due. He's doing what he does best, and that's putting a parachute team in a title race in the Championship. We have seen a drop off in recent games, and to be honest, I think it was quite a lucky start. Games like Pompey at home, Plymouth away, and Preston at home probably should have ended differently, and now the goals do seem to be drying up. Only 1 goal in 2 for the Clarets, and their most recent game against QPR will have been a really frustrating one for Burnley, as they created 1.2 XG, but they just couldn't find the net. And despite winning half their games so far, I just haven't been that impressed with Burnley, but of course it's not all about the eye test. At the end of the day, if he can keep getting the results, we'll all be praising him at the end of the season, and it feels like history is repeating itself for a 3rd time here. But that being said, don't feel that the football is sustainable for them the way they're playing. They've gone 4.5 hours of football at Turf Moor without scoring a goal from open play, which is quite crazy, and it highlights their issues up top. And the underlying data shows this as well. They're in the bottom 3 of created XG in the Championship this season, only Portsmouth and Plymouth with less. They do sit 5th when it comes to XG conceded, so overall, yes, the football is pragmatic, but it does the job, and underlying data can only tell us so much. And there's also a lot of limiting factors for Parker's side, such as their huge list of injuries and suspensions to key players such as Tressor, Foster, Bayer, all who are massive game changers at this level. Add to that the key players that were sold in the summer like Audebert, Burge, Dara O'Shea, and you can see why Burnley fans maybe haven't been blown away. But at the end of the day, it does seem quite funny for Burnley fans to be complaining at being second after 12 games. Trust me, I wouldn't mind that as a Portsmouth fan. They are averaging just under 2 points a game and on track for 88 points. So in 3rd place behind Burnley by 1 goal difference is Leeds United, another team held to a 0-0 draw at the weekend, and another team with 23 points so far. They're averaging 1.6 goals a game, the 3rd best in the division, and 0.7 goals conceded per game, which is 4th best They also enjoy the large share of possession in games so far, averaging 60% of the ball, behind just Swansea so far this season. But although they were the dominant side of the weekend against Bristol, they failed to even score a goal, and maybe showed that without Ramazani and Firpo in their team, they just aren't as good. And I definitely saw a drop-off in creating clear-cut chances without Ramazani in the side, and he will be a huge miss while he's out. But considering the quality and the price of this squad, you would expect them to have good depth, and on paper they do, but even someone like Solomon, who was built up to be a really key player for them, still has massively disappointed so far. But to be honest, I think Saturday was quite unlucky, and after a busy 3-game week. However, I feel there was a lack of creating chances in the final third, a lack of pace, a lack of quick passing up front until Joseph came on, who obviously isn't as good in terms of finishing as Pirro, but I thought his ability to stretch the defence gave Leeds a different spark going forward, and maybe he could be the key. It could definitely be argued that, similar to last season, Farke is too reliant on key players such as Gnonto, and when they don't perform, Leeds could have problems. Another argument is that he's too defensively minded tactically, or too negative, and I agree with this to an extent, in that quite often he is happy just to sit and take the point. But is that the mentality of a title-winning manager? Was that the mentality of Bielsa? Definitely not. However, I honestly think that a lot of the points Leeds have dropped this season have been down to individual errors, and have been quite unlucky, which you can't blame Farke for. Of course, most notably with the Melia mistake costing them 2 points against Sunderland, and if that doesn't happen, they'd be 2 points behind them. Similarly, conceding penalties to Pompey and Norwich, and mistakes against Burnley. But to summarise Farke's tactics as a whole at Leeds, they focus on dominant possession-based football with high pressing, and a real key to their players, they're building up from the back with centre-backs who maintain wide positions and control possession to push forwards. Also wing-backs providing width, while wingers cut inside to create central overloads and progress play closer to goal. And as for defensively, Leeds look to press aggressively and win the ball back quickly, which has allowed them to be where they are in the table so far. But I'll give my full final predictions at the end. Now, the Blades would be in second place if it wasn't for that 2-point deduction, and overall it's been a strong season, especially when you consider the train wreck of a season that last season was conceding 104 goals and only winning 3 in the Premier League. They've already won over double that amount of games this season and look much better defensively, with the second best defence in the league so far, averaging 0.5 goals conceded per match. And that's mostly down to the massive transformation the squad went under in the summer. Additions like Raksaki, Moore, O'Hare, Suter, Cooper and Burrows have really added an extra threat up front, as well as securing the defence up. In particular, I think Michael Cooper has been a really key player in goal. Save percentage of 85%, preventing 3.06 goals and 7 clean sheets so far. After an unbeaten start, they did struggle for a couple of games against Leeds and Middlesbrough, but got back to winning ways home to Stoke on Saturday in a deserved win, I think. Unlike the previous two teams, and more similar to Sunderland, Sheffield United don't rely on having the majority of possession, as they actually average under 50% of the ball in matches, showing that it isn't all about how much of it you have, but it's what you can do when you do have it. It has been an impressive start, but the 2 games they've lost so far have been the real tests for the Blades so far, away to Middlesbrough and Leeds, and it could be a worrying sign that they've crumbled at both times they faced a top opposition. I think if they have title aspirations, they need to be getting more from those sorts of games, and I think we need to see what else they can do when coming up against fellow promotion chasers. So now time for my final predictions. In 4th place out of these 4 teams, and it could very well be a different 4 teams, right? I wouldn't be surprised if it was, if a couple of these teams were switched around, but in 4th I'm going to go for Burnley. I'm not sold on it. I know this will come back to bite me, because it happens every time we've got Parker, but this time I'm really not sold, and I think that there's anything to be worried about necessarily, but I think it's more that these 3 teams, I think, are better than them tactically and in terms of the squads. So then in 3rd, I've gone for Sheffield United, Chris Wilder's men. I think I've been impressed with them so far. I think they've been really good. I think the squad's good. It hasn't taken them long to click together, given that it's a relatively new squad. Then in 2nd, out of Leeds and Sunderland, I've got Sunderland in 2nd and Leeds in 1st. I think just the money aspect, basically. The experience of being in a title race last season for most of those players, the depth. I know I talked about the depth maybe not being what it looks like, but at the end of the day, it's a very expensive squad. A squad that has to win the league and go up. Otherwise, there'll be serious question marks over that football club. So yeah, Red Bull Leeds in first, Sunderland in second, Sheffield United in third, Burnley in fourth. That's my prediction so far, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if for West Brom, or I mean at the moment, you know, Watford and Blackburn are knocking on the door, those sorts of spaces, but yeah, like Middlesbrough or someone like that could easily get into those top four. But yeah, let me know who you think's going to win the league, who's going up this season, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.